Alafia, everyone. Peace and blessings. Hello. Hello. Okay. Can everyone please stand? I'd like to do a call to the four directions. The east is the direction from which the new day comes. It is the direction of renewal. It is a place of innocence, spontaneity, and the capacity to believe the unseen. In the east is the rising sun, the dawn of the new day. As we walk the sacred path of life today, help us, Creator, to grow in wisdom and in strength to address the issues of violence in our communities. Please turn to your right. The south is the direction of the sun at its highest point. It is the place of summer, of fullness, of youth, of physical strength and vigor. It is a time that people work together to prepare for the fall and winter months. Hence, symbolically, it is a time of preparing for the future, of getting ready for the days and challenges ahead of us. To the south, where new and fresh rains come from, we ask your generous help to walk the ways of goodness and kindness and gentleness in our hearts and speech when we interact with each other. Please turn to your right once again. The west is the direction from which the darkness comes. It is the direction of the unknown, of the going within, of dreams and of direction. The west is a place of testing, where our will is stressed to its outer limits so that the gift of perseverance may be won. To the west, the place of the setting sun, we thank you, and good and generous Creator, for the day. We ask for forgiveness for the times that we may have caused disharmony. To your right once again. The north is a place of white snows that remind us of the white hairs of our elders. It is the dawning place of true wisdom. Here dwells the teachers of intellectual gifts symbolized by great mountains and sacred lakes. Some of the gifts that await us as travelers in the north is the capacity to think, to synthesize, to speculate, to predict, to remember, to imagine, to analyze. In the north, we find the courage to walk each day and we ask your help to overcome our fears and doubts in order to create free, violence-free communities to live in. We reach down and touch the ground. We reach down and touch down. Go ahead. And we stand up and raise our hands toward our elders who watch over us. Please be seated. It is my honor and privilege to set the charge for this evening. I'd like for you to think of all the losses in the community this year. So many elders have transitioned to the land of the ancestors. Think of our victories, because we had them also. I charge you this afternoon to create space for our young ones. The street is nowhere for them to hang out. And until our communities become violence-free, we need to look out for one another. And even when they become violence-free, we still need to look out for one another. My next charge is for our elders. We stand on their shoulders. It is our responsibility to keep our elders engaged by phone, by visiting, by mail, by whatever is necessary to let them know that they count. My last and most important charge is to work together to address the violence and self-destruction that is so prevalent in our communities. We must strategize together as brothers and sisters to seek solutions. And please always remember, there is no I in we. Thank you. Umamoya Chabu, 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 Umamoya Chabu. And then I start dancing after. Umamoya Chabu, 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 Umamoya Chabu.
Good evening, beautiful people. This is a time for truth-bearing women, for stolen women, warrior women, from Da'ume to Bocaimo, Birmingham to Eastern Parkway, baby. We did not choose this war. Pounding at our doors for our bodies, for our girls, for emerging sons, brave boys, and for the black brothers who stand by our side. Arms locked, arms locked, arms locked. Take us to the beginning, a people ripped from our land. Sacred dances reduced to orgy, rituals to dust, bare breast to crushed bone. Black folks gone from worshiping skies to backs bent under whip, hot sun. Value placed on one and not the other. Female bodies not endangered. Female bodies not silenced. Female bodies not for the taken. Female bodies forgotten. Really? We no longer agree. Who or what is the cause? Who is to be responsible? Who's to be held accountable? Will you march for me? Will you? Will you march for me? For truth-bearing women, for stolen women, warrior women, from Dahomey to Boacaimo, Birmingham, baby, to Eastern Parkway. Will you speak my name? Proclaim me guilt-free? Heads held up high, dressed like me, hoodies on, cry for me. Stand with me? Will you war for me? Stop pounding at our doors. For our bodies, for our girls, brave boys, emerging sons. This right here, this is for truth-bearing women. And for the black brothers who stand by our side, I love you.
They said he was a nice man. They told me we would be a perfect match. They said, you guys have so much in common. So hey, why not? Let's go out. I said, I'll drive and I'll meet you. He said, no, it's okay. I'll come get you. I was raised that way. I didn't make it out my living room. It took 5 minutes from the time I was picked up. Forgive me. The sad thing is, I was brought back to the place of my mother's trauma because my mother was in the room next to me and she couldn't save me, hear me scream because she was triggered. She was stuck just like me. I had to heal, and this today is my healing. And I stand as Christina Jouse, a co-founder of Black Women's Blueprint, a woman who stands proudly with all these phenomenal people. And I make a demand to you. If you are a man in this room, ask at least 3 women you are close to, have you ever been sexually assaulted Tell me. I believe you. I will listen. I will hear. Because just when you think that some people aren't touched, or it hasn't happened to them, or they're exempt, it's not true. And we sit by quietly, and we don't ask. But now it's time.
I dreamed and wanted a perfect life, but God had other plans. My parents left me back home in Africa with my grandparents when I was 5 years old. I remember at that time that my parents chose money over me when all I wanted was to be loved. I wanted my parents around like any other kid, but that was too much to ask. And then, my dad's brother's best friend promised to always love and take good care of me. I was just 10 years old then, sharing the closeness of a man whose love was purely conditional. I had to give him my soul to pay for his love. He was so good to me, filling my life with material things. He said I was beautiful. He promised to give me everything I needed or wanted. I thought he was some kind of messenger of God, but instead he turned out to be more like the devil itself. This man came and took my safe space. My bed was taken away from me every night and made into a nightmare. This man turned my childhood into adulthood in a matter of minutes. I wasn't a child anymore. Didn't do the things a 10-year-old would do, feel, or think. He would put his thing inside me. I cried and cried as hard as I could. I thought my tears would wash away the pain, but it was my soul that was finding strength to keep me alive. I was a happy person, filled with smiles and laughter during daylight. I was just unstoppable, shining my light in the night were my nightmares, when the dark crept in. I hated myself for allowing the devil to taste my soul and feel my naked body. My sorrow was the devil's happiness and joy. While I'd cry out in pain, he'd say how much he loved me. Time went on, and soon I found myself in a woman's body and mind. Age didn't matter. I wasn't that same little girl anymore. And I wanted love from people who didn't know how to give it or just couldn't give it. This was the only kind of love I knew. And because of this, I was raped in New York City in 2009 and 2013, and no one cared. It was just another rape that may as well have been caused by the way I looked or the way I dressed, and plus, I'm Black. There's no law to protect someone like me in this country, nor anyone to hear or believe my story.
It's my turn to act and take ownership of my own truth. And it is my turn to be the voice of other women. Today, I stand here as an African American, as a Black immigrant, activist for women's right to fight, and to fight to put an end to women and men watching their daughters being raped and doing nothing about it. This is my truth. It made me for who I am and who I have dreamed now and in the future. It took a lot of sweat, tears to get to where I am today, and it's just the beginning. I was once a rape victim, and now I am a survivor.
Can you hear me? Mine is a story of incest. I think a better description for the often violent and repeated acts of sexual abuse perpetrated by a family member upon a younger and weaker member of the clan would be repeated rape. Repeated rape reminds me what a brutish act of violence incest denotes. Repeated rape. I had great parents. I was very fortunate in that way. As marvelous as they were, they did fail me in this singular and profound way. They did not see the repeated rapes inflicted upon me by another family member. And I believe if they had, they would have protected me. I'll never know. By the time the shadowy images started to flood my consciousness in my 20th year, my dad was deceased. When I uncontrollably blurted out my story to my mother, she said nothing. Her deafening silence was probably not very different from the slow way in which my brain allowed me to recover small pieces of this experience. I do remember him climbing on top of me and telling me he would kill me if I told anyone what he had done. I do remember believing that he would and being afraid to speak. Vividly, I recall crying myself to sleep night after night, begging God to please make me dead, and being quite angry with him for failing to protect me, or at least releasing me from this life. I would feel that anger toward God for many years. I couldn't speak of the evil that terrorized me, and neither could my mother. I understood after I confronted my abuser that his own pain had led him to see my vulnerability as a convenient outlet for his rage. I also understood the bind my mother was in, a sort of Sophie's choice between two of her very own children. An impossible choice to make. Still, somehow, I expected her to say something. I wanted her to tell me she would have protected me if only she had known. I wanted her to tell me, damaged as I was still worthy of love. She couldn't do it. She never said a word. I used to talk about my experience to virtually any stranger on the street who would listen. In their eyes and through their silence, I often saw the same pained look my mother carried in the creases of her skin. It was a reproving look that said I was being inappropriate to broach such a nasty topic among strangers, friends, or family. How dare I? The look seemed to say, didn't I know I was the stain? I didn't know. Because there was a big part of me that believed I was worthy of love, I knew I had not caused the repeated rapes, and I did not deserve that experience or have cause to live as if it was me that had committed some crime. I refused to walk with my head bowed under a cloud of shame, although I could see that was what society expected of me. I did not know how difficult it would be for people to look at me in the eyes or muster a word of knowing or consolation once I showed them the dirty stain all over my spirit. I did not know I was the dirty little family secret, the one with the potential to shatter all illusions of perfection. I did not know I was the stain. Incest or repeated rape is a complicated problem because of the likelihood of it infecting and destroying families, destroying their ability to function in a healthy way. Repeated rape catches up whole families and communities in a web of deceit that allows darkness and pain to fester and grow. Once incest occurs in a family, paralysis sets in, and there is almost no way to move forward without bringing more harm. I think our only chance at protecting our children is by raising our consciousness of how likely it is that we too are caught in this web. Our vigilance is what our children need, even more than the courage after the violent act, the courage we rarely manage to muster. No child is dirty. No child is a stain.
Rape is when I finally got the courage to tell my mother what my cousin had done, and she refused to believe me. Rape is when I finally got the courage to tell my older sister that my cousin had been molesting me for 4 years, and she told me I was lucky, since I was only touched by fingers. Rape is when the same cousin comes over every holiday, and I have to pretend I'm okay because he's family, and apparently everyone deserves a second chance. Rape is when my mother's boyfriend came into my room and forced me to have sex with him. Rape is when he came back the next day and acted like nothing had happened the night before. Rape is the empty feeling I felt every time he looked me in the eyes or walked my way. Rape is when my mother told me, "It's been a week, whatever it is, you need to get over it," instead of giving me the support I needed and I craved. Rape is forever looking in front of me, next to me, and behind me, scared that everyone will hurt me the way that he did. Rape is the pain I get in my stomach every time he crosses my mind, or the countless nights I cried myself to sleep feeling like nobody cared. Rape is when I finally told my therapist, and she told me that time heals all wounds. But it's been months, it's been weeks, it's been days, and these wounds still burn and they still bleed. Rape is when I finally told my mother. Rape was the truth slipping out of my mouth in the middle of us arguing. Rape is when she called me names and told me that I had to have been asking for it, that it must have been something I was wearing, something I said, or something I did. Rape is when your own mother tries to convince you that it had to be something wrong with you, that he would never do such a thing unless something provoked him. Rape is the way that she looked at me in disgust whenever I passed her eyes. Rape is her telling me how disgraced she was that I was a part of her life. Rape is when I find myself up at 3 a.m, hating everything about myself, knowing that the one person I needed to believe me did not. Rape is so much more than sexual assault or a person taking advantage of another. Rape is every second during, rape is every second after. Rape is every feeling I felt from my incestuous molestation to my rape. Every feeling I felt from my rape to this moment right now. Rape is knowing that I'm alive and I made it through. And rape is knowing that even beaten, voiceless, alone, and forced against a wall, there's a part of my life worth fighting for. Rape is knowing that I am not a victim, I am a survivor.
I like my iPad. It offers me reprieve from the world at all locations and times. It's a technologically advanced way for me to withdraw from everyone after various traumatic events in my life. This wasn't so easy to do 25 years ago. Withdrawing from my friends and family was much more difficult at 5, especially as a survivor of molestation. My massive family was a close-knit one. Growing up, being alone was rare. One sunny afternoon, however, my teenage cousin and I were in my godmother's apartment, alone. He asked me to sit on his bed to watch a movie, RoboCop. Wearing only a pair of white boxers, his bare chest was so strange looking. When he pulled out this weird, funny-looking thing in his boxers, I grew uncomfortable. No one had ever shown me that before, but I couldn't tell him I felt weird because it would hurt his feelings. I couldn't do that. I was a good girl. When he was on top of me, I felt like I was suffocating. He was so big. There was excruciating pain with every thrust ripping through me, rendering me into nothing but this jumble of broken parts. I didn't have a body anymore. There was only pain and his big thing, which didn't look funny anymore. It looked terrifying. I don't remember if I screamed or when he wasn't on top of me. I don't remember how I got to the living room a little later either. I do remember being curled up into a ball on the velvet forest green couch, feeling like everything below my waist was on fire. I couldn't sit down because that would hurt too much. I lay on my side wondering when the pain was gonna end, when in fact it was only beginning. Don't tell anyone because you're gonna get in trouble, he told me. He told me this and I believed him. I believed him because even though he made me hurt, he was still older, a teenager. I couldn't get in trouble when I'd already hurt so much. No, I wouldn't. I had to be good. I didn't want a family to be mad at me. Until my teens, I couldn't hug my uncles or cousins. The boys at school were like terrorists with WMDs in their pants. I was so afraid if I opened up to any male, they might hurt me like my cousin. Then I'd have another secret to wrap up in Teflon and bury deep inside. Perhaps that's the true legacy of this trauma, not shame or pain or secrets, but fear. I'm afraid to hope and even the truth. Sometimes I feel like I won't be able to survive the next trauma life throws mercilessly at me. And in those moments of deep fright, I crawl up into a ball like I did on that velvet forest green couch, pull out my iPad, and will myself to disappear. I demand that you see people in your family, or if you have friends who are suddenly withdrawn into an iPad, ask them what's wrong. Ask how you can help. They may need your support, but are too afraid to ask.
The number 2 is hard for me. Maybe that's why I get triggered by it. I wear my nerves out and the pain bursts through my arms. I wonder if I'm cursed, if this is the end. On a cool winter night that feels like fall, I realize my expiration date, when it gets so hard and I get so heavy from swimming against the current of trauma, and it's 2, 2, 2. The second time I meet the journalist, he rapes me. He told me, "You're a good writer, but there's a time when you learn words are meaningless. You learn it in a kitchen in New Jersey when he presses all the escape routes out of you. He crowds out your personal space, and then he crowds you out of your body, too. You're in a corner, you're in a chair, and his small hands are encroaching upon you. He's locked your thighs in his. He cups your breasts in his greedy hands. In my head, I'm screaming, 'Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. Why aren't you listening to me?' I turn into a marionette moved by strings. I already know what's going to happen next. His mouth smothers mine. It's like he's engulfing my face, mashing his tongue inside mine. I taste tart, tired, sour. I don't even have a toothbrush with me to wash him out. He thinks he's doing me a favor, show the feminist the error of her ways. I must have wanted this, the logical conclusion of the evening. He asks me, 'Why aren't you enjoying this?' It's 42 days until I see blood in my panties again. I've been thumbing through the pages in my planner, heart sinking as the gap gets wider. I just got my first retail job. In my head, I do the math. If you work every day in this week, in 2 weeks, you'll have enough money to afford an abortion. Planned Parenthood, day 42, no period. Emergency Medicaid. Does the Hyde Amendment apply in New York State? Are you 486? Those are your Google autocomplete results now. You want to do it alone. You aren't ready to tell someone else, someone you know. You're an actor. Everything is fine. You can't tell your family. How do you ask them to help when you have to keep the information under lock and key, swallowed in lungs, and forced smiles, shallow breaths? How do you form the words? Your sense of humor is darker now. You wonder, is there a Kickstarter for abortions? Every twinge in your body, it must mean something. It must draw towards the inevitable conclusion. The dryness, it's a desert down there. You don't know what to do, and so you count. You spend your days counting until it's all you know how to do anymore. 2 is a hard number for me. There's something they don't tell you about triggers. They don't make sense in the way people who haven't experienced assault think they do. Something you might not expect might trigger you, like the way sheets tangle against your body and make you feel suffocated. There's something they don't tell you about feminists, too. We're good at dealing with things, the dark things, the subterranean, the things no one else wants to talk about. I let them in. I let them know my truth.
So thank you all for your continued attentiveness and the intention that you bring to this space. We just want to let you all know that there are healers, social workers, response agents in the space for those who might feel activated or triggered by the information that they're hearing. We understand that this is very intense and sensitive content, and we want to continue to honor these women and the truth that they are bearing, but we also want to offer you all support. We do have healers and response agents in the space. You'll see them around with yellow scarves on. If you feel yourself in need of information or support or just a breath from this space and intensity, please see yourself to one of the agents. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Dear Friend by Lupe Guinier, dedicated to the one of you in 6 men here who are sexually abused. Some of these men are standing with the 1 in 3 women here in this room and in the world who are also injured in this way. Dear friend, my wound was hidden from me. I heard our therapist say in the 1980s, 1990s, we recognize that Black males are born of women who love them not for their dick power or money, but for their gentle, enduring, powerful humanity. And I got it in my mind. Then your brown male fingers touched my wounded place gently between my thighs. Oh, I saw you are a man. I remembered for 10, 20, 30 years I had stopped my brain before that. My baby and toddler self had put on a shelf far away from my conscious mind how daddy and mommy had colluded. Your essence of care for girls exuded from out of your male pores when I sat watching you place your brown daughter's face on top of your dresser in a photo. I knew African men could be also my friend, my deep, caring listener, my touching, stroking, releasing, healer, shouting out to me, "Your parents were criminals." An affirmation of hearing me, I thank all men who recognized back then in the 1980s, and the younger than 65-year-olds who are now young but growing wise, brothers who stand up today. Hold us, stand with us. I yell, ay, gracias, hermanos. Gracias, hermanos. Thanks for your stand by us with ears moving past fears, letting our tears flow. And you new humans, new men, sit, walk, talk about it. Writing and willing and wanting to know. So we can grow as a mama and papa, as a lover woman, lover man, as a grandmommy, granddaddy, to birth our community past domination and forced sexual submission to free winds and manumission. P.S. I love that all these decades I see you hearing nieces and stepdaughters and girls in the neighborhood. I feel the spirit of your suicide sister. It's lifted by our collective resistance against the silence that forced her to murder her own body. She left you and me without a sister or sister-in-law, and her daughters and sons without a mommy, and our community without a neighbor or a kind friend. My dearest, longest buddy, a love song to you and me who defeated a lying system of money, stealing, Army, Navy, killing all the brown working people worldwide. We united, we too, and helped bring in the new, fresh, tell truth side. I walk, you walk in spirit together, side by sacred side.
I am Stephanie R. Cologne. Nobody likes me. Nobody cares for me. I hate big sharks, family reunions, big and small fires, government peanut butter, being locked in a closet and losing track of time, being ridiculed for not fighting back, and the white shadow of my mother's boyfriend who put his ding-a-ling in my face as I feared he was a grotesque monster in my dreams. Please join me in a cleansing scream for the victims and survivors that came before me and after me. Let me tell you my story of relentless resilience. Witness my courage in the face of a cornucopia of sexual assault, incest, sodomy, and violence from the age of 4 through 31. My experience was one of shame and stigma linked to my ancestral DNA of centuries of rape of my mother and my mother's mother. At 31, I couldn't understand why my husband, the man I loved, was involved in an insidious affair with Miss Crack Cocaine. My love for him was no match for their mutual attraction to one another. I threatened him that I'd get involved with another man, but he just ignored my pleas. And on a cold October 9th in 1989, in an emergency room, I met that other man. I was blind to his proclivity to being a rapist and a psychological and physical terrorist. I welcomed him for dinner, and like Dracula, he refused to leave once I invited him in. I hid the horrific experience from my parents, who lived 2 doors down from me. This other man raped and humiliated me several times a day. I was ashamed and became a shell of a person. At least once a day, he would strangle me to near death. With my husband incarcerated, I had nobody to protect me, and it took all my resolve to shield our boys from the daily violence. I imagine leaving this hellhole in a black body bag, a white straitjacket, or escaping on a plane with my boys to Miami, Florida. My prayers to Allah, Bismillah Rahmani Rahim, were like holy water is to Dracula as he was forced to release me. I became pregnant from this evil encounter, which ultimately strengthened my love for my partner in life as he decided to raise our beautiful daughter as his own, a product of our unconditional love for each other. For many years, I was silent, unable to protect myself. I was a casualty of war. I was a victim of violent sexual invasion of my body, my mind, and my soul. Oh, I became numb and trained myself to accept sexual assault as my norm. Now, I am a survivor, determined to end the cycle of rape. I want to take back what was stolen from me a half a century ago. Yes, I had been raped by my babysitter's 13-year-old son when I was 4, who received government peanut butter in a big tin can. Yes, I was repeatedly raped, sodomized, and bullied every Thanksgiving and Christmas from age 7 to 11 by my cousin Butchie, who was big all over. Yes, my mom's white boyfriend, standing intoxicated, nude over my face, claimed he wanted me while he was fucking her. Let's not forget, no, that man, that other man who surely would have killed me, the sons and the daughter that I carried inside me. Ain't that some shit? Now, I work diligently with my God and myself on my healing. Oh, Lord, I still hear your howling begs like rain, rain on my window pane. Please, go home with me, my child. I will protect you. We are tired. Let me hold you. Let my arms hard and strong. Now, you must know that I believe your truth. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier.
On September 3rd, 1944, 7 men armed with knives and guns got out of a car and walked toward a group of Negro women and a teenage boy. Herbert Lovett, the oldest of the crew at 24, and a private in the U.S. Army shouted, "Halt!" when they ignored his order. Lovett leveled his shotgun. As the circle of men closed in, Lovett waved his gun at one of the women. Her name was Reese Taylor. "We're looking for this girl right here. She's the one that cut that white boy up in Compton this evening." That's what Herbert Lovett said. Then he said that the local sheriff, George H. Gamble, had dispatched the group to find this alleged assailant. Reese's friends insisted the men were wrong and she's been at their house all day. But the men crowded closer, nodding their heads in agreement. "Ain't this her? That's her. Get her." Lovett lurched toward Reese Taylor and grabbed her arm. Then he turned toward the teenage boy and asked if Reese Taylor was his wife. "No," West replied. "She's Willie Guy Taylor's wife." Herbert Lovett then extended his hand to the teenager, ordered him to shake it, and promised not to hurt Reese Taylor. "We're gonna take her right up here and see if Mr. Gamble knows her. If she's not the one, we'll bring her right back." Reese Taylor managed to wrestle her arm from this man's grasp and bolted toward a stand of trees behind a cabin. But Herbert Lovett cocked the gun at the back of her head. "I'll kill you if you run." Lovett walked Reese Taylor to the car and shoved her in the back seat. 3 men piled in behind her and 4 in the front. The headlights switched off and the car crept away. After a few miles, the green sedan turned off the main highway, rattled down a red clay tractor path into the woods, and stopped in a grove of pecan trees. Y'all ain't carrying me to no Mr. Gamble, Reese Taylor shouted. The man in the back seat clasped her wrist and ordered her to be quiet. Lovett grabbed his gun and waved Taylor and his companions out of the car. Get them rags off, he ordered, pointing the shotgun at her, or I'll kill you and leave you down here in these woods. Sobbing, Taylor pulled off her clothes. Please, she cried, let me go home to my husband and my baby. Lovett spread an old hunting coat on the ground, told his friends to strip down to their socks and undershirts, and ordered Taylor to lie down. Lovett passed his rifle to a friend and took off his pants, hovering over the young mother. He snarled, act just like you do with your husband, I'll cut your damn throat. A few days later, a telephone rang at the NAACP branch office in Montgomery, Alabama. Mr. Nixon, the local president at the time, decided to send me, Rosa Parks, to Abbeville. This abduction and rape of Reese Taylor was not unusual in the segregated South, but we don't talk about that. The sexual exploitation of black women by white men had its roots in slavery and continued throughout the better part of the 20th century, but we don't talk about that. When African Americans tested their freedom during Reconstruction, former slaveholders and their sympathizers used rape as a weapon of terror to dominate the bodies and minds of black women, but we don't talk about that. They attacked black women on the job, lured black women and girls away from their home with promises of steady work and better wages, abducted them at gunpoint while traveling to and from home or church, raped them as a form of retribution or to enforce rules of racial and economic hierarchy, sexually humiliated and assaulted them on streetcars and buses, taxicabs and trains, and other public spaces. As my sister, freedom fighter Fannie Lou Hamer put it, a Negro woman's body was never hers alone. But we don't talk about that. Ever asked yourselves, why is it that black women's rape was not part of the general discussion when we talked about civil rights, Jim Crow laws, and lynchings? It's not like black women kept their stories secret. Black women reclaimed their bodies and their humanity by testifying about their assaults. They launched the first public attacks on sexual violence as a systemic abuse of women in response to slavery and the wave of lynchings in the post-emancipation South. We have proof. We have proof that this too was the civil rights struggle. Our civil rights struggle. Black women persisted in telling their stories in local and national NAACP reports as testimonies and letters to the Justice Department. On the front pages of the nation's leading black newspapers, they deployed their voices as weapons in the wars against white supremacy, whether in church, the courtroom, or in congressional hearings. Black women loudly resisted what Martin Luther King Jr. called the thingification of their humanity. And today, we do the same. deploying our voices as weapons in the wars against the continued rape, sexual assault, stalking, beating, trafficking, and pimping of Black girls and Black women right here in Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, Bushwick, Brownsville, Morrisania, Lasaida, Kingsbridge, and Westbury, Long Island, and so on. We deploy our voices against rape apologists who really still believe a Black woman's body still is not her own, whether on the stroll, the college campus, or in our own beds. Our bodies are our own. Today, the landscape has changed. The fact that the vast majority of rape is intra-racial, 85 to 90%, means that the ones hurting us, the ones raping us, the harm doers are from our own communities, our own circles, and from our own homes. It is those we know. It is those we protect. It is those we love.
I just want to scream. Did you say scream, sis? Today is no coincidence, and we are not an isolated occurrence. These women speaking truth with real life, with blood in their veins, sorrowfully and freely, difficult and righteously angry, poignantly, heartbreakingly beautiful, sobering truth, divine, sacred truth. We are not, nor have we ever been, isolated incidents. We may not all have gotten to this space of speaking and of hearing each other to speech, of listening on time, but we are here now. And sister, brother, we believe you. And with inspiration from Carol J. Adams in Transforming a Rape Culture, we say, we believe you. We care about you. We care about you. We're glad you told us. You are not alone. You are not alone. Violent behavior towards you is never appropriate or deserved. It's okay to be afraid. We are so glad that you survived. It's okay to be angry with all of us. It's okay to be angry with God. You deserve a life without violence. You are not responsible for another person's behavior. You have the right to make choices. You are not to blame. You have a right to privacy. We do not believe that God is punishing you for a sin. What happened to you is not karma. It is not something that was meant to be.
We believe that the Most High, that nature, that the universe, that all who are in full possession of their humanity do not want you to suffer. Whatever you did, wherever you were, whatever you said, you did not deserve to be raped. Today is about what happens to women's bodies, to their souls. If this feels disruptive, it is because rape is disruptive. If these testimonies have been painful to hear, it is because rape is painful to bear. If this takes your breath away, it is because rape can snuff out the very will to breathe. Today is no coincidence, and we are not an isolated occurrence. We may not all have gotten here to this place of speaking and hearing each other to speech. We may not have gotten here on time, but we are here now. It is time that we refuse to allow our identities to be defined by systems of oppression and domination. That is the meaning of liberation. Today, we don't ask. It is an expectation that our Black brothers add their voices to the chorus of voices speaking on behalf of Black women's liberation. Because, as our great sister Barbara Smith has said with others in the Combahee River Collective Statement, our liberation is intertwined with yours. Now, what does it mean to you? What does it mean for us that the United States is one of the few places in the world where mass rapes have occurred systematically against an entire race of people, Black women, and there has been no outcry, no processes for justice, no acknowledgement, and we still flinch at the recognition of such violations and its impact on the culture of violence against Black women today. So today, we do not ask, we expect truth and justice. We declare a Truth and Reconciliation Commission right here on this soil, because a war has happened here. A war has happened here on this soil. A war and a multitude of battles to lay claim to the bodies of our daughters, of our mothers, our sisters, to lay claim to the body that is our own. Because as Dr. Joyce Leary and Judith Herman have said each in their own way, the wounds sustained in rape are as inevitable as gunshot and shrapnel wounds in warfare. The symptoms resemble that of combat response, like those experienced by men engaged directly in hand-to-hand combat in war. What does it mean to you to hear these stories of survival? For us, our heart sinks, because though we know the names of these survivors who stood in this room today, we don't know all the names of those who still have not yet found the voice to speak. We don't yet know their languages. We can't yet recall. We can't yet reach all of them, but they are ours, our people, and no one is coming for them but us. What would you give? What would you give to make sure that every young man steeped in rape culture and every boy already saturated with cultural messages about rape as permissible, rape as sport, sexual assault as a way of relating? What would you give to make sure that son, that emerging son, has a chance to keep his humanity by not dehumanizing another? What would you give to ensure that that college student, that daughter, is safe on her college campus, at that party, in that dorm room, in her own bed? What would you give to right the wrong that is too often inflicted on these young women's bodies with impunity with community acceptance, with no accountability, what would you give? As for us, we stand here and bare our souls. We bare our souls because we know if we can speak it, if we can hope, if we can dream of a world without rape, then we can create it. I stand in honor of my mother, my humble, beautiful, wonderful mother, who says often that God owes her another life. True story. Another lifetime where there is no rape on her 12-year-old little body, no rape in her marriage by a husband she was supposed to trust, no rape nor the atrocity of rape anywhere in her life. That is a right. As for us, we bare our souls. We declare a truth commission on Black women and their experiences with historical and present-day sexual assault. We do this for our ancestors in the slave fields and in the big house, on the island of Hispaniola or North Carolina, where Black female bodies and their sexual and reproductive relationships were indeed an integral part of the political economy. Our sexuality, part of a market economy which created wealth for masters who understood and organized their very lives, their politics, their day-to-day around that fact. We do this, we give all, because we must work toward following the imperative of never again, not in our communities, not in our cultural productions, not at the hands of our own fathers, not our own brothers, lovers, or sons. Never again should Black bodies be an integral part of money-making, not via human trafficking, nor the pimping of our girls, not via videos, or the music industrial complex. Never again should anyone from our communities benefit or partake from this insidious form of patriarchy, of male supremacy. Never again should my Black brother get gender benefits from some forms of racism or the way that shows up in our daily lives, in our communities. Yeah, I said it. Not in our names. Not over our bodies. We declare it, not just for ourselves, but for our ancestors, whose iron-willed bones lay at the bottom of the Atlantic. We do this for our offspring and the future generations not yet born. One more thing. We declare a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, because if we can dream it, if we can dream it, if we can dream of a world without rape, without molestation, without sexual exploitation, then we can create it. Throughout our history in this nation, Black folks have had to research. They've had to search for images of our ancestors, right? We've had to search. Now there is this awesome book. It's been around for a while. This book is titled, They Came Before Columbus, telling the world about the Africans who journeyed to this land before the colonizing Spaniards. It should have created an academic revolution, changing the nature of how American history is taught, how Black history is taught. African explorers coming to the New World before Columbus were men. They were men too. Now listen, okay? What I am telling you and what you are hearing is a little bit of history, a wonderful piece of history offered by Black feminist bell hooks. Listen. African explorers coming to the New World before Columbus were men. The fact that they did not seek to dominate, rape, or destroy the indigenous native peoples who were already living on these shores reveals something. It reveals that initially black males did not see themselves as sharing the same standpoint about the nature of masculinity. And most importantly, yes, most importantly, it reveals that their sense of masculinity was not defined by the will to dominate and colonize folks who were not like them. We may not have gotten here on time in this place of hearing each other's speech and in this place of listening. We may not have gotten here on time, but we are here now. We are here now. And my mother is happy. And our mothers and our mothers' mothers are happy. And my mother is happy.
We'll now have a brief 10-minute intermission. Please hurry back. And also, while you're here, keep in mind to check out all of the other Brooklyn Museum events going on. Thursday, March 13th, you have Sonia Sanchez, the musician Bernice Johnson Reagan of Sweet Honey in the Rock, right here in this theater. Check with any of the staff for more information in the calendar, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Also, if you're saving a seat with someone and holding a bag or a seat opened with a bag, please remove that. We have a lot of people here and we'd like to fill it in and move some folks down from the balcony. Thank you. Tracy West, please come to the tech table. Tracy West. Intermission will be over in 4 minutes. Please remember, no food or drinks in the theater.
Greetings, everyone. We understand that folks are making their ways back to their seats. We just want to be clear, there was a miscommunication about the program. The men's conversation is still happening at the conclusion of this intermission. We want everyone to know the men's conversation is still happening. Please don't leave. The program is still going as planned. The intermission is just about wrapping up. If folks could find their seats, please.
See you.